Boy, there's a real bombshell in this testimony that Mr. Taylor, Ambassador William Taylor, our ambassador to Ukraine right now, and the ambassador to Ukraine under George W. Bush, that he laid out today. And this is something that he said. It's just, I mean, this is just mind-boggling. That he learned just last Friday from one of his staffers, one of his staff members, who was in a car with Gordon Sandlin, the Oregon hotel multimillionaire who gave $1 million to Donald Trump's inaugural balls. And we still don't know where most of that money went, by the way. Trump raised all this money for his inauguration, and it seems to, millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of it seem to have vanished. But in any case, Gordon Sandlin donated $1 million, and so Trump made him the U.S. ambassador to the European Union. But Trump also knew that this is a guy who gave him $1 million, and so, he could rely on him to be a reliable toady and do what he wants. And so he sent Sandlin off to Ukraine to try to, engineer the investigation into Hunter Biden and Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company, and to try to find some proof that it was actually the Democratic Party operating out of Ukraine that hacked the DNC's own servers and Hillary Clinton's emails and all that kind of stuff. That it was the Democrats who did it to themselves to try to lose the election to to Donald Trump, or to try to win the election and pin it on Trump, or God only knows what. But this is what Mr. Taylor said. The member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone. Now, keep in mind, this was in a car in Ukraine in the afternoon, which means that this guy, Sandlin, was calling Trump to say, I'm being asked some questions here, and I need to know the answers, in the middle of the night for Trump. Trump, by the way, has said, I don't know Sandlin. I met him, but... So anyhow, this is what Taylor said, and I quote, the member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sandlin about, quote, the investigations. Ambassador Sandlin told President Trump that the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. In other words, the Ukrainians were saying, okay, we're going to give in to your extortion and bribery here. You are trying to extort us, in other words, threaten us with harm. We've already had different numbers, between 11,000 and 14,000 Ukrainians die in this actual open conflict with Russian forces or paramilitaries on the eastern end of Ukraine. And so he's saying basically, you guys have the weaponry that we need, these shoulder-fired missiles that can take out a tank. And so, yeah, we'll have a meeting with CNN and we'll tell them that we're investigating Hunter Biden for corruption, and Joe Biden along with it. See, Trump is thinking that this is, he knows that when Comey, FBI Director Jim Comey, came out and said a week or 2 weeks before the election in 2016, came out and said, yeah, we're reopening this investigation into Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton immediately lost 3 points in the polls. And even though a week before the election, he came out and said, or maybe it was a month before they announced it, but whatever. Even a week before the election or thereabouts, he came out, Comey comes out and says, we didn't find anything. The damage was done. Trump knows that. He knows that, Comey put him in office by announcing an investigation into Hillary Clinton. And so he's trying to get the Ukrainians to repeat this. It's the exact same script, only, in recycle. Are the hearings coming back?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, okay. They're going to resume shortly. Yeah. By the way, the hearings are in pause right now, and we will play them live throughout the day, throughout the 3 hours of our show today, whenever the hearings are, happening. So you can just trust that and just stay right here if you'd like. So back to this. So Taylor is like basically hassling Sandlin and saying, I don't think this is a good idea. And Sandlin, and by the way, what is all the stuff here that's at stake? And so Sandlin calls Trump apparently in the middle of the night on his cell phone from Ukraine. Trump takes the call. And the member of his staff, Trump is talking loud enough into this cell phone, or they're in the car, and maybe Sandlin's got it on speaker, or he's just, but it's loud enough that the Taylor's staff guy can actually hear Trump as well as Sandlin, who he's sitting next to. And he says, following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Ambassador Sandlin what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Ambassador Sandlin responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden, which Giuliani was pressing for. In other words, Ukraine announcing on CNN that they are going to investigate, on behalf of Rudy Giuliani and the president. Ukraine announcing this in a way that might flip the election of 2020 toward Trump, that would reflect poorly on Joe Biden. This is all operating on the assumption that Joe Biden is the Democratic nominee, which, at the point in time that Trump was doing this was probably a fairly safe assumption. Basically, what Sandlin is saying, what these guys are saying, is that Trump said that it doesn't matter if Ukraine gets security assistance. What really matters, is that I get my investigation. And this is another one. Last Friday, a member of my staff told me of events that occurred on July 26th, while Ambassador Volker, I think the hearing is going to resume any minute now, so I'm going to hold off on taking calls until probably the next break. Last Friday, a member of my staff told me events that occurred on July 26th. While Ambassador Volker and I visited the front, this member of my staff accompanied Ambassador Sandlin. Ambassador Sandlin met with Mr. Yermak. Following the meeting in the presence of my staff at a restaurant, Ambassador Sandlin called I said it was in a car. It was in a restaurant. Ambassador Sandlin called President Trump and told him of his meetings in Kiev, or Kyiv, as apparently they pronounce it in Ukraine. The member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sandlin about, quote, the investigations. Ambassador Sandlin told President Trump that the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call, and then I shared that clip with you, he said that Trump cares more about the Biden investigations and all this sort of thing than anything else. So the chairman is back in his chair. They're shooing away the photographers. I'm guessing this is going to start again in maybe a minute or two. Just to bring you up to date, just a very quick recap. At the very beginning of the hearings, Chairman Schiff, Adam Schiff, Democrat from California, laid out basically the prosecutor's brief against Donald Trump for attempted bribery and extortion. And I would say, given the fact that the Ukrainians were willing to have the meeting with CNN and had the whistleblower's story not hit the news, the day before the president of Ukraine was willing to meet with CNN to basically do what Donald Trump wanted, it wouldn't have been attempted bribery and extortion. It would have been actual bribery and extortion.